Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, May 19th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for May 19th, 2025. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And Senior Counsel Lindahl.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh. I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I did want to note we do have a change on the agenda for action item number 3. The last resolution that's listed for that item for CCI 5 is removed from this meeting. And with that, we'll move on to proclamations. Our first proclamation is Apples for Students.
All right. I know Beth McGorry is here to accept this proclamation. Welcome, Beth.
Good evening, friends. Beth McGorry from St. Mark Youth Enrichment. So, I want everyone to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. A deep breath in and a deep breath out. And if it feels safe for you, close your eyes. Imagine cracking open that package of 24 colored crayons and what that brings to you. What it brings to me is opportunity for our kids here in Dubuque. So this week, Wednesday, we kick off one of my favorite projects that we do. Apples for Students Fill the Bag, filling 3,600 bags of school supplies for area children. When I tell my friends, when I first started working at St. Mark, they're like, there's 3,600 kids. I go, try 4,200. And so during this time of uncertainty for moms and dads with high egg prices, with everything else, we're going to have more kids than we've ever had before. We're going to need school supplies on that first day. Kindergarten through 5th graders, public and parochial, will be taken care of. And we ask this beautiful community to do what it always does, and it's support our kids. So starting Wednesday on Great Give Day, we'll be launching this beautiful, beautiful project that will definitely take care of our kids. Starting that first day, I know I tell this story every year, but the first time I ever worked this project, I got a thank you card from a first grader. That was 11 years ago. So he's a big kid now, and I know his grandma helped him write that card, but it said, "Thank you for making me feel normal." So as a kiddo who lives in poverty, as a kiddo who doesn't want to be seen as living in poverty, these school supplies make that happen for him. So thanks, everyone.
Beth, thanks so much for being here so often to share those stories. They mean a lot to all of us to be able to hear of the great work that you're doing, but the reason for it. So thank you very much. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas since 1988, St. Mark Youth Enrichment has existed to work with the families of Dubuque. Let me start that over. Has existed to work with the families of Dubuque to meet some of the unmet needs of their children. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment staff, committees, and board are dedicated to furthering the total learning experience of all children they work with. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment will again be leading the Apples for Students Fill the Bag program in the Dubuque community during the months of May, June, and July. This program collects money to buy basic school supplies for children of families who need help purchasing them. To date, St. Mark Youth Enrichment has given out over 45,000 bags of school supplies. And whereas local schools and human service agencies help St. Mark Youth Enrichment identify the 3,500 children in grades K through 12 who need school supplies this year. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment invites the people of Dubuque to donate money to this program so school supplies can be purchased in bulk from local merchants and serve more children than they usually do. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, do hereby proclaim that the months of May, June, and July be designated for the collection of money to buy basic school supplies for needy children in the City of Dubuque, and urge the people of Dubuque to participate in this worthwhile project by supporting St. Mark Youth Enrichment in their effort toward helping our children.
Our second proclamation is Women Veterans Recognition Day.
All right, I know Christina Schauer and Dawn Fleming, I believe, are here to accept this proclamation. And some friends.
Hi, my name is Christina Schauer. I'm president and a co-founder of a nonprofit here called the Tri-State Women Warriors. We are a nonprofit with a mission to provide connection and advocacy for the unique needs of women veterans and service members. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn Fleming to talk a little bit about this proclamation.
So I'm Dawn Fleming. I'm vice president of the Tri-State Women Warriors and also a co-founder. And so the importance of this proclamation, why we wrote it, was because prior to 1948, women were able to serve, but they were not permanent members of our armed forces. They were also never given the status of veteran. So we date back to the American Revolution with Molly Pitcher. We have women that served as nurses and other occupations for the Civil War. You have the Hello Girls from World War I. You have the WAC and the WASP, and every other direction that our women were asked to be taking them on in the armed forces so that our men could go and fight war. So prior to that, they, again, never received that veteran status. So in 1948, President, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing the blank, but
It's going to be Truman, probably.
Truman,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
President Truman signed into proclamation the Women's Armed Forces Integration Act, which allowed then for our women to regularly serve in the armed forces, obtain rank, and become permanent residents so they could go past wartime. And now that sets the stage for what women do in today's military. We are now able to serve in all capacities in our armed forces, and it allows us to become also that growing demographic for our veteran population, which then ties into the Tri-State Women Warriors and our mission of advocacy, connection, and recognition of our women veterans.
Well, thank you both for being here. And, you know, when I talked to you first about, how long have you been in existence now as a group here in Dubuque?
Since informally since 2022, and then since 2024 in January, that's when we became an official nonprofit.
Yeah, and just look at the growth. I mean, this is so exciting to see you all here today and have this service for you and the service that you provided for our country. So thank you very much for starting this first and foremost, and having a place for women warriors to go here in Dubuque. But thank you very much for putting this proclamation forward so that we can make sure that everybody knows about it and that we can continue to spread this message. So I encourage you to keep coming back every year to be able to do this for Women Warriors Day, or Women Veterans Recognition Day. So thank you very much for being here tonight to everybody who was able to show up. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas the residents of Dubuque are steadfast in their commitment to honoring the service and sacrifice of local veterans and service members. And whereas Women Veterans Recognition Day, observed on June 12th, commemorates the anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948, which granted women the right to serve as permanent and regular members of the United States Armed Forces. And whereas prior to 1948, women played essential roles in every American conflict, often serving without formal recognition or the benefits afforded to their male counterparts. And whereas nearly 3 million women have served in every branch of the United States Armed Forces, whose contributions have been and continue to be vital to the strength and effectiveness of every branch of the U.S. military. And whereas the Tri-State Women Warriors recognizes the sacrifices and strengths of female veterans and current service members and continues to uplift, support, and advocate for the unique needs of female veterans. And whereas it is our duty to recognize and honor the sacrifices, leadership, and resilience of women veterans, ensuring their service is acknowledged and valued within our communities. Now therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the 12th of June, 2025 as Women Veterans Recognition Day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and encourage everyone to honor the service, sacrifice, and enduring contributions of women in the U.S. military, past and present.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind,
Please, Mike.
City Manager Mike Van Milligan, I just want to recognize one woman veteran, and that was my mother. So she was a WAC, Women's Army Corps, during World War II, and she served in the South Pacific. She actually was stationed in New Guinea during the war, where she met my dad, which was good for me, but...
Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah. All right, well, come on up and accept the proclamation.
You can all come up here for a picture if you want.
Let's do it. Oh, somebody's trusting Rick with a camera.
Got our house photographer with us again tonight.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hey, Adrian, before you go, can I just say real quick, Mike, it's good to have you back.
Oh, thank
This is your first meeting back, so let's give Mike a hand. He's been through a lot, so thanks a lot. And I've never seen this guy over here before in my life, so I have no, Barry, I've never had to share the desk with you. It's nice to have you here, Barry. Thank you very much. Yeah. Adrian, please.
We'll move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 2 through 4 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone here in chambers who would like to remove any of the consent items for any separate discussion this evening? Seeing no one here. Anyone virtually?
Nope.
All right. Great. Then back to us.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are items set for public hearing, and we have 5. First is Cedar Cross Road Urban Revitalization Plan for June 2nd, 2025. Second is Development Agreement with 1301 Central LLC for June 2nd, 2025. Third is 2025 Pavement Marking Project, initiate public bidding process and setting date for a public hearing for June 2nd, 2025. Fourth is Fire Headquarters HVAC Project for June 2nd, 2025. And fifth is proceedings to set public hearing on June 2nd, 2025 for the issuance of not to exceed $2 million water revenue capital loan notes, private lead service line replacement pilot program, phase 1 for June 2nd, 2025.
Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for June 2nd.
Second by Sprang.
A motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to, and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is request to rezone 101 Airborne Road. And I will just note with this item, sorry, I meant to say that there are 2 separate ordinance options listed for this. So if council chooses to motion on one of the specific ones, they should specify if they're selecting option 1 or option 2.
Thank you, Adrian.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
before I make a motion, the Solid Waste Agency Board met last Friday in special session to agree to accept the conditions that the Zoning Advisory Commission has recommended. And the Solid Waste Agency Board also recommended to the council that we accept option number 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell?
I move to receive and file, and for option 2, ordinance number 2, I further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
I got a motion by Russell, second by Farber. Wally, coming to you.
You bet. Good afternoon. Excuse me, I can talk right now. City Council. Can you guys see my screen by chance? Is that being projected up there? Okay.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I think the projector up here may not be working this evening, so the ones on the side of the screen will be the projecting what we see up here.
All right. So as noted by City Clerk Breitfelder, she's indicated the request is rezone the property from agriculture to HI heavy industrial with conditions, and that you've requested option number 2. So I'm going to step through. There's a lot of information here you received in your packet, quite a bit of information from the neighbors, some other things. So this first image that you see here is the vicinity map. So the area that we're talking about looking at being rezoned is this black and white hatched area. It's zoned ag currently, and it's made up of actually 3 different parcels, portions of 2 parcels and 1 parcel located at the bottom there. When we do notification, because one of the questions that got brought up during the public hearing was the notification requirements of the city of Dubuque, because there's several property owners who felt that they should have been notified. Based on state law in Chapter 414 of the Iowa Code, we're required by law to post a notice in the paper. That's the only requirement that's required, believe it or not. But our ordinance goes above and beyond. We do notify all property owners within 200 feet. Some people question, why is it only 200 feet? Well, state law also indicates that all property owners within 200 feet, if they're in opposition to the request, we look at a percentage of that opposition. So that's how we set our notification requirements at 200 feet. The county has separate notification requirements, and I only bring that up because this is directly on the border between the city and the county, and some of the people that are in opposition were from the county, and their notification requirements are 500, actually it's like 550 feet that they use, but also they have state law requirements for 500 feet, people in opposition. So those are the reasons why we have different notification boundaries. We've had some questions of why, if you were outside that 200-foot notification boundary, why I was not notified. We cannot arbitrarily choose and pick and choose who gets notified outside of that 200-foot, because we get the next question is, well, I wasn't notified, and I wasn't notified. We have to follow the state law and the laws that are located in our ordinance. So I just want to make that clear to everyone. So. The project site, it's the history of the zoning, it's located in the county. We have these dates that are set here. These are the dates where major zoning ordinances took place. It was primarily located in the county. It was annexed to the city in 2011. And when it was brought in as agriculture. So when property is brought into the city of Dubuque, it is automatically zoned as agriculture unless there's a request for rezoning at that time. The adjacent land uses to the property are primarily agricultural. To the east is sanitary landfill, but there is some residential that's located to the west and to the south of the property. So the project site is comprised of 1 parcel and portions of 2 others, as I indicated. A total area is about 103 acres. It's comprised of hilly terrain. There is some creek that goes through the property, but there is timber and row crops. This is a document that was brought up at that public hearing that Ken Miller, a solid waste agency administrator, provided. This shows you the area and of the cell, that's the future development of the landfill. And what I wanted to do is superimpose the area that's being rezoned, which is that green area of the blue hatching, because there are some questions like, well, how does this relate directly to the rezoning of the property? So the purple area is the future expansion of cell locations, which would cover, I believe, Ken indicated is another 193 years for the area. But I just wanted to indicate to show the area that's actually being rezoned and where that landfill site would be located. I'm not going to go through all these, it's included in your packet, but one of the big questions that got brought up was the impact on the environment. There is a layer of federal and state permits that they have to go through for landfill agency requirements. There's a lot of things with regards to how they control the water infiltration, impacts to the environment itself. There's quite a bit of permitting that has to go through in order to receive approval even to conduct a landfill site for that. This is one of the first steps that Ken has indicated to us is they have to secure the zoning of the property before they can move forward with several other permitting processes for the property. So we talk about adjacence to the adjoining property owners. There are some separation requirements. For instance, the cell has to be a minimum of 500 feet from the property line, and then also over 1,500 feet away from any wells for the property. That's actually required. There will be a future forest and landscape buffer planted, and there's some requirements that a litter fence would have to be placed around the perimeter of the property. You know, traffic patterns, we provide information here. Currently, the last time they did it was 101 average daily traffic. We don't foresee any additional impacts to the traffic because it'll just move from cell to cell for the development. So the rezoning to HI with conditions, this is a table that shows everything that's allowed in the HI, and then the table below is heavy industrial with conditions. So when the landfill was rezoned the first time, there was conditions that were placed on it, and so what they're looking at is carrying forward to keep the same conditions that was on the existing landfill to be extended to the expansion of the landfill. So you can see quite a few of those uses have been eliminated, and they've been reduced down to automated gas station, freight transfer facility, resource recovery recycling center, indoor only, railroad, public, quasi-public utility, including substation and sanitary landfill. There was quite a bit of public input that was held at that meeting. We received several emails. These are individuals that submitted emails and letters opposed to the rezoning, and several speakers spoke at that Zoning Advisory Commission meeting. A lot of the information is provided in your packet, and then also it's available on video. So to kind of go through and kind of talk about that opposition, so when we receive up to 20% of the area within 200 feet of the property is opposed to the rezoning, it requires a supermajority vote at the city council, and we have to receive written opposition, and we did receive a petition with quite a few signatures on it. But this map shows those areas highlighted in red, zoomed out from quite a distance to see this is all the input that we received from neighbors that signed a petition that are opposed to the rezoning of the property. This is a zoomed in picture of that area to be rezoned, so you can see that area that gets counted is the area off to the left here inside that blue boundary between that light blue boundary. That did increase, it's 20.7%. So that would require a supermajority vote at City Council in order to approve the rezoning for option 1. Anytime we get involved with rezonings, we talk about concurrence with a comprehensive plan. The Imagine Dubuque Comprehensive Plan talks quite a bit about our landfill. I know at the meeting, Ken Miller went through a lot of the histories of the impacts of other landfills in our community. And as part of our city's future land use map, this area has been identified as heavy industrial, which is the zoning that they're looking at going to for the property. But there are other options and other ideas that have been identified in our Imagine Dubuque plan. So it is concurrent with our comprehensive plan. So at that meeting, the Zoning Advisory Commission made a recommendation by a vote of 3-1 that the City Council approve the rezoning of the subject property from agricultural to HI heavy industrial with conditions. And once again, talking about that requires a supermajority vote. So one thing, after reviewing the information and looking at an alternative consideration and just hearing it from Mr. Jones tonight, the council has the ability to reduce the area to be rezoned. And because of a lot of the input that we received from the neighbors, voiced concerns about the rezoning of the parcel that's located here. And this is an area that there's actually a restrictive covenant that's placed on it, or a warranty deed that says that this area will not be used as a landfill site. That is the 40 acres that directly abut the property owners that live on a state lane. that is, this proposal would actually remove that from the rezoning request. So that area would remain ag. This is just a map showing of that area. Once again, this is all the property owners are opposed and signed the written petition and everything with regards to the rezoning. However, it has removed that 40-acre parcel, which is located to the south. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I think you can, yeah. So that has been removed from the rezoning. So this would be option 2. So it would only rezone this portion of the property from ag to HI with conditions. And because that would, we have to look at the neighborhood opposition, that takes it down to 16.4%. That would just be a simple majority vote in order to approve option number 2. So option number 1 would require a supermajority vote. It would include a larger area. Option number 2 will reduce that area and require a simple majority vote. Once again, this is just a side-by-side image that kind of outlines those conditions between the two. The area to be rezoned is the area that's in hatched. So that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Okay, thank you, Wally. We are in a public hearing to consider a request from the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Agency, Kenneth Miller, to rezone property located at 101 Airborne Road from AG Agricultural to HI Heavy Industrial Zoning District. The Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. So I'll ask now if we have any public input on this item. If anyone would like to come and speak. Just a reminder, we'd appreciate your name and address so we know, so for the record. So if anyone has some comments now, we'd be happy to take. Seeing no one here. Okay. Anything virtually, Adrienne?
I'll just mention in terms of written input received by the city clerk that Carrie Voss, 11140 Conhan Road, did submit input included with the agenda item.
Okay. Thank you. Please, yeah, come on up.
Good evening. Steve Inglesby. I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm one of the neighbors on the list right here. For some reason, my property is not read out, but I am one of the people opposing it. So I'm very happy to hear that they've come up with a different option that leaves the 40 acres as ag and not developed. So I'm very happy to see that from the last meeting. So just want to say that.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for your
And
comments.
Steve, sorry, if you could just confirm your address. I know you said it was in the packet, but just for the record here.
Yeah, 15680 Estate Lane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for your comments. Any others this evening? Okay. This will be the last chance. Otherwise, we're coming back here to talk, and it'll just be us from here on out. Okay. Back to the table then for discussion. I'm going to kick us off, Wally. I'm going to be completely honest here. I'm a little bit confused, so I just want to make sure that I get clarity before I move forward. You did provide a lot of information. I do appreciate that. There was a lot discussed at the Zoning Advisory Commission meeting. Can we start with slide number 5? Can you go back to that slide? It was the one where you had the overlay on there. So, am I understanding correctly? The purple area is the area where it's going to be expanded. The landfill is actually going to expand over time. Is that correct?
Correct. And Ken Miller's also here too, the landfill agency administrator, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. But the area in purple is the future cells that would expand over time on the landfill.
Okay.
The 40 acres, just to kind of point that out on here, as you can see my cursor, this is that area where it indicates that no land cannot be used for a landfill site.
Okay, all right, so that bottom square right there in the green will still be ag based on the ordinance that we're voting on right now, if we pass that. Okay, so so the area there is, so even though there's some area that the landfill doesn't expand, it's the fence, is that right? Is that what that is, that fence right there? That the darker line, is that kind of what that is? This might be a question for you, Ken, actually, if you wouldn't mind coming up. I'm just trying to understand, spatially where this is going to be and why we have to, I guess my bigger question is, why do we have to do that whole section to be heavy industrial if not all of it is going to be heavy industrial? There's still going to be some empty space there, more or less.
So right now, this is considered alternative 4. In order for us to move forward with permitting it through the state side, first it has to be rezoned. When we look at rezoning, there were multiple options that the board considered for future expansion. They chose to move forward with option 4 at this time, which is to keep a contiguous landfill cell. So this keeps the whole thing area all connected to it together. There is an alternative option that's alternative 3 that splits this up a little bit because there's a creek that runs through there right now that would place some additional landfill space kind of up in this area here. That is not the option we chose to pursue, but it does allow for that flexibility if it's rezoned and the state indicates and or the Army Corps of Engineers would indicate that they're not willing to allow for that stream relocation. So it will require, if we do relocate the stream, it will be on this edge up here. So
got it.
That's where it will be relocated to.
So I'm hearing you say, I mean, there's a lot of analysis that went into this
Yes.
with the board already looking into this for quite a while. Okay. While you're here, why do we need to rezone this now? I mean, this is not an expansion that's going to happen tomorrow, right? I mean,
No, so in order for the permitting to happen, it has to be rezoned first. So the state won't let us permit it unless it's been rezoned. The reason we're permitting it all now is to be transparent so that over the next it's 193 years life for the area that's in purple, not this little area here, which is a pond. But we still have about 14 and a half years left in the existing cell, so it's really 207 years worth of life yet. The reason we're doing it now is it's that transparency to say, hey, this is where we intend to build the landfill over the next 200 years or the remaining life of the site. And it sets that way there's that expectation out there that if you do develop any of the other areas around there, you know that this will be built there eventually. Of course, if there's any other waste diversion technologies or anything, we could lengthen that 193 years if we get away from landfilling completely as a country because there's a better way to manage trash. It won't be built at all. So this is just to maximize that potential for the site. It also allows us then for future planning purposes to know, hey, we don't want to build anything in this purple area that we would then have to tear down in order to expand the landfill. So it helps for our long-range planning also.
Gotcha. Okay, that's extremely helpful context. Thank you. I have one more question, and then I'll open it up to my council colleagues. This is going to be more of a legal one, Barry. The idea of taking on this second option ordinance that that is the motion on the table, which removes that 40-acre parcel. Why doesn't that have to go back to the Zoning Advisory Commission? How can that just stay with us to be able to do that? Is that just a power that the council has to be able to change that at our desk?
Well, Wally can answer.
Okay.
So we did notify for the area to be rezoned. It's a reduction of the zoning area. It's still in the boundaries that was published to the Zoning Advisory Commission, the request for that. So, and the board or the commission, council has the ability to modify those requests. Mm-hmm. It would be different if there was an expansion outside of what they were reviewing, which it's not. It's actually a reduction of the area. So therefore, it doesn't have to go back to the Zoning Advisory Commission for that. So.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I said final question, but one more quick one. Most of the opposition was around that 40-acre parcel. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. Well, I'll show you here on the map. So everyone shaded in red.
Okay. So there were still some neighbors that were opposed and that were in the area that we are still talking about rezoning. But the majority of the comments that I recall had to do with the most of the residential areas that were right there on that 40-acre parcel.
Yeah, most of the people that spoke at the meeting are the residents that lived in that estate lane. We did receive Ken Kress is the property owner that owns this larger triangular piece of property. That came in after the public hearing. Mm-hmm. After he heard some of the comments that were brought up at the meeting, then he provided a written response in an email, and that's included in your packet.
Yeah, okay. Thank you both. All right. My apologies. Thank you for your patience.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you. We're really blessed to have a landfill property that'll take us into the next 200 years. A lot of communities are really struggling. Cedar Rapids is close by a good example. They're about out of landfill. They're out of options. I don't know if they're going to be trucking waste to other facilities or what. You have to thank the people whose shoulders we stand on up here for buying property when it became available and making this space available. Wally said, and it's important that everybody understands that the covenant and the warranty deed for the one parcel in question, that's no longer in question, stays in place no matter what we do here. We can't erase a covenant with zoning. So that remains in place. We've got a long history at the landfill agency of being good neighbors. And in fact, kind of proven out by the fact that residential development continues to happen around and near the landfill, that we're doing our best we can to contain the waste that's flowing around in the air. And if we do a little better job, everybody with their plastic bags and get them tied up or bundled up and recycled, or at the grocery store, or at least in a bag, tie it up so they're in a ball instead of a free-floating device, we can have a lot less of that to have to go chase and catch. And lastly, I just want to say that the agency board unanimously decided to support option 2, not because it was a path to not needing a supermajority here at the council. It was because it was the right thing to do. It's clearly the right thing to do. We didn't need that piece rezoned to accomplish everything that the agency needs to do to accomplish that 200-year plus security of having our own landfill and not having to truck things hundreds of miles and cost a lot more money to dispose of waste. So I certainly support this. There was one citizen that questioned whether Mr. Resnick and I should vote on this because of a conflict of interest. So the conflict of interest law would show that we have some kind of personal gain. It would preclude us from doing council action that would give us any personal gain. Serving on a volunteer board, in fact, appointed by the city council to go serve on that board to gain expertise on this and guide the landfill through its future is what we're there for. And I'll absolutely be voting on this and for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Russell.
Thank you. I read all the letters from the residents, and I really like to get those because it helps me look for questions I want to ask when I'm going through the materials to see if the concerns were addressed in what we were provided. And I was happy to see that a lot of them were addressed. And for one, I think the list of conditions that are placed on the rezoning severely limits what can happen with that land as opposed to just a heavy industrial zoning. I also like to see that of course, it includes a forested buffer and the litter fence that separates those two types of zoning. I did have one question that I saw that wasn't answered, and it said that it's always going to be located 1,500 feet from wells. And I wondered, is that a mandated standard from like the DNR, or how does that protect the private wells?
Yeah, so for private wells, we have to maintain a 1,500-foot buffer from any private well and a 500-foot buffer from our property boundary. So this design and all the designs that we did, including the one that would push further up this way, all were designed with the idea of maintaining both of those buffer distances. So we took all that into, the consultant took all that into consideration when developing the options, so.
Okay, so studies and past practice show that
Yep.
those other sources will be safe.
Yeah, and we will be placing, as this continues to expand, our monitoring well network will continue to expand out then too. So we do semi-annual monitoring of the facility, so twice a year. They monitor all the groundwater where the inflow actually it flows across the property, kind of at this direction. You can see my cursor moving now. So we have wells over in this area and then wells over in this area. So we're tracking the groundwater as it goes underneath the landfill to ensure that it maintains the same level of quality at all times. So, yep. And then we also track we track the stormwater runoff during the year. We did a project a couple years ago with UD where they track the stormwater where it comes into the landfill and then where it goes out, and it was actually cleaner because of a wetland area we have on site. So,
Thank you very much.
yep.
Mr. Mayor.
Let me see if others have. Mr. Jones first. Go ahead.
Might be helpful to council and to others in the room to just understand a landfill a little bit. It's kind of like a gigantic Tupperware. There's a very robust polycarbonate liner at the bottom on top of clay, and below the clay are some pipes that monitor, attached to the monitoring wells, and above the clay are some pipes that catch all the liquid leachate that comes out of the waste over the years. That goes to a central location and ends up in the sanitary sewer and goes away. So we're and around the perimeter, as Ken mentioned, there are monitoring wells that are periodically checked to make sure that nothing's escaping the landfill cells. So at the top of the cell, once it's all done, there's another fairly robust liner, a layer of earth, and ultimately grass is growing. One of the nicest places, in fact, one of the high points of Dubuque County right now is up where the little visitor center is, a little pavilion. And that used to be one of the lowest points in the county in 1975, but it's sitting on top of this mountain of garbage. It's grassy, it's breezy, it's high, you can see a lot of things from it, and it's a very pleasant place to be. And at the end of this 200-plus year life of the landfill, it'll all kind of look like that. You can't really build anything on it. You start digging a foundation, you're going to find last year's garbage. But you can make golf courses out of it. You can build fantastic walking trails. You can do a lot of very nice things in the public good with an old landfill. Now, we're not going to have an old landfill for a lot of years. Again, thanks to the people that worked before us in establishing this one. But it's a pretty pleasant place. It's a pretty safe place. And it's probably the most regulated outdoor enterprise that there is. More rules than ag, more rules than a chemical factory. And we do pretty well at complying with all of them and staying on top of it. We've got expert consultants from 3 different engineering firms that guide our hand in various decision-making, from financial management and rate management to site management, and making sure that we're in compliance with everything. We've got experts on the dozers and on the compactors, and we've got one of the nation's best experts standing right there. Ken speaks at conferences all over North America on some of the best practices because he lives them every day. So very proud of this group.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other questions? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just wanted to thank you, Ken, for your work on this. I know that you're a really dedicated public servant, and the hours of time that you've spent on this project specifically. Thank Councilmember Jones and Resnick, because you serve in a capacity, and your knowledge and kind of institutional knowledge of this topic has helped me to understand things moving forward. But then to thank everyone who submitted information and actually came to the commission meeting. Thank you for your input. I hope that you feel that you have been listened to, because as we try and come to a center point that will be best for all, know that we very much pay attention to what you think and read your input and listen. Additionally, though, our commission really serves is a great sounding board for us, but then their recommendations I greatly respect. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'll echo that I appreciate this process and how it worked itself out. This is one of those things where I think it needed a little bit more discussion, and we discovered that. So I'm glad that we had that discussion, and I'm glad the Zoning Advisory Commission was there to be able to be a part of that. I'm glad the municipal, the DMASWA board was there to be able to help with that, and Ken, thanks to you too. And then everyone who was able to kind of guide us through this. This was a little more complicated than usual from a rezoning standpoint, so the ability to be able to make sure we're making the good decision here, I really appreciate everybody's work on that. It is something I plan to vote for too. I'm much more comfortable with this now that we are looking at removing that section that was causing most of the consternation, and I think that is, as we look at this map that's here, I can see the need for it, obviously, but then I can also see that I think, have made a smart decision here based on some really good community feedback. So thanks to everybody who was involved with it. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, the motion here on the table is to receive and file, and for ordinance 2, option 2 that's on the paper there, specifically to waive the 3 readings. So everyone's clear on what we're voting on? Okay. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
That motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Roussel, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is request to rezone 405 and 575 Cedar Cross Road.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Rousseau, second by Sprank. Wally, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. You've seen this rezoning a few times, right? So the request to rezone the property from R1 single-family residential to R3 moderate density multifamily residential. Once again, this is the location of the site. This did come before the City Council a couple of meetings ago. We had a conversation. The request at that time was a request to R4. Then there was a discussion amongst the City Council members to remand it back to the Zoning Advisory Commission to take in consideration a little less dense residential development and request to rezone it to R3 moderate density multifamily residential. Once again, the notification boundaries did not change. We're notifying 200 feet from the area to be rezoned. That's the area shown in red. The project site, a lot of information, nothing's really changed there, just otherwise the rezoning request that we're talking about. So this is the differences between an R1 and R3 district. So there's some conversations. A duplex could be built there. Single-family home still could be built there. R3 just affords it the opportunity to allow row houses or multifamily up to a 6-unit building to be located on the site. There are a couple lots located at this location. At that, there was public input that was provided. Kara Moss provided some information that's included in your packet at 3095 Nightingale Lane. And then at the meeting, Sandy Roenick had a phone call with staff expressing some concerns, once again, about traffic on Nightingale Lane, Cedar Cross Road, and traffic congestion from the baseball field and the daycare that's located in the proximity. So the Zoning Advisory Commission's recommendation by a vote of 4-0, the Commission recommends that the City Council approve the rezoning of 405 and 575 Cedar Cross Road from R1 single-family residential to R3 moderate density multifamily residential. A simple majority vote is needed for the City Council to approve the rezoning of the property. So at last council meeting when we discussed this, there was one dissenting vote from one of the Zoning Advisory Commission members. That commission member was present at this meeting and she was in agreement for the reduction in the density. So therefore she voted in favor. That's why you see a unanimous vote with request to rezone it to R3 from the previous rezoning request of R4. That's all I have unless you guys have any questions.
All right, thank you, Wally. We are on a public hearing to consider a request from Luke and Julie Murfeld Properties LLC, to rezone property located at 405 and 575 Cedar Cross Road from R1 single-family residential to R3 moderate density multifamily residential zoning, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Do we have any input on this item this evening? Seeing none here. Anyone who wants to provide input. Yep. So you're welcome to come on up. Just name and address, please.
Name is Mike Reinert. I live at 401 Cedar Cross Road, which is the property that would be surrounded by the rezoned property. So the rezoned property would be behind and also to the right, with Birch Heating and Cooling to my left. I'm in opposition to it. It's still the same reasons. If it were an R2, which this property was R2 at one time, and the city took away the R2 and moved it back to an R1, this area is not a hodgepodge area as you're talking. If you take a couple points to the north side of my property and go down to the table or the trailer park and then go straight back, all the properties are R1. You get into the ABC Learning, which is down there, which is just outside of the lines that I'm suggesting to draw, and the ice factory that has been vacated. It's still an R1 district. And we've shoved a CS zoning into a R1 home. And even in planning, there was talk of buffers, which didn't get put in place. There was talk of restrictions. None of those got put in place. And that's where we're at now. And now you're looking to put another extreme rezoning when at best it's probably an R2. You're going to surround R1 or stick R3 in the middle of R1s and surround one R1 for sure, and you're going to impact another R1 directly. And these are the two properties that abut to this. And then all of the impacts that go with the R3 zonings. So, again, I'm still in opposition with the R3. If it were to be reduced to an R2, it's much more acceptable, but R3 is still too extreme. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for your comments. Any others this evening?
Good evening. I'm Carol Moss. I live at 3095 Nightingale Lane. I just have one question. Along Cedar Cross Road, that will still be a road easement, right, between Dendlinger and 405? And the second thing is, going forward, I look forward to working with Luke and Julie on, developing this land. I'm not one to stand in the way, but I'm sure they'll be transparent with us. But if I was just curious about this entranceway from Cedar Cross Road, if that would still be an access road, if that would be the main access road. Because not a lot, but I will sometimes, if I'm having work done at my house, I will use that road to park in back of my house to keep it out of the way. But I thank you. I appreciate all the work you have all put into this. And I'm very grateful for you all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Carol, for your comments and question. Okay. Anyone else?
Hello again. Figured you were all missing me by now. Julie Murfeld with Murfeld Properties, and we're looking to rezone properties from R1 to R3. I know the first concern was Mike, who, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, 2 years ago purchased this house on Cedar Cross Road, which is one of the busiest roads in Dubuque, and is suddenly surprised and appalled that it's a busy street and doesn't want it busier. I don't get it. I'll never understand that. We've had this for sale for a couple years. It's been in my husband's family for decades. It has been R1. There's just been no interest in it. We have no interest in developing it ourselves. We're just not developers. We want to respect, obviously, the surrounding area, but realistically, both of these addresses are on Cedar Cross Road. This is a 95% commercial road. Is there subdivisions off of the commercial road? Absolutely, and that's structurally how most cities are. You're going to have major roads, and then you're going to have subdivisions off those roads. Well, this address is Cedar Cross Road, which is 95% commercial and very little residential. Again, because we aren't going to develop it ourselves, anybody that would purchase it, they have to get approval anyway from what they're going to put there. So whatever community input on that, no one's going to come in and sneak something in. If this holds 6 units, somebody could build 6 residential houses in there, all R1 right now. It's 2 acres. You could fit it. You could make it happen, again, with a city approval, but there could technically be 4 to 6 homes that go in there, the equivalent of what this is. We're doing it for marketability. We're being as transparent as we can possibly be. If they need fencing, privacy fencing, we're more than happy to do what it takes. We're just trying to move this property. We're just time to move on. So basically, the other problem is that the 405, which is a fairly small property, which is again directly on Cedar Cross, they're going to need to take a portion of that for the turning lane that's going to be added at some point in the next 5-year plan to the sports complex. So that's seriously compromising that already small lot. It's making it smaller, which we understand absolutely why that needs to be done. We support that completely. But again, as a lot separate, it's just going to, it decreases its value substantially. In response to Carol, that easement is I don't know if the word is legal easement, but that is an easement that is there, and our understanding that is a permanent easement. And that's the one that has now been concrete by Denlinger. So we still own title to that, but it is an easement, of course, that he can use, and that is an easement, to our knowledge, will always be, whatever the legal term is, that it'll be considered an easement. I don't know development-wise what anybody would do to go off of Nightingale. That would be between them and the city, how they would want incoming and outcoming to go. But that's about the best of everything that I can address.
All right, thank you, Julie. for your
Julie, if you could
comments.
just confirm your address, please.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. 10713 Cottingham Road, Piasta.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on this item? All right, seeing no others, and we have no other virtual input.
Nope, just that Carol Moss did also submit written input included with the agenda item.
All right, thank you. All right, back to us for discussion then.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that's here tonight and also for all the emails that we received about this as well. And Wally, I was wondering if you could help. Carol did have a question regarding the access to the potential new development and the concern about Cedar Cross Road. Could you give us just an overview of what a development agreement may or may not look like in response to her concern?
Yes, if you can see the screen here, I believe the question is this access point that goes off of Cedar Cross Road, this long skinny portion, which used to be a roadway. If I were to pull up the 1950s aerial photo, there used to be a farm here, the Murfield Farm, and then there was an access that came all the way through, kind of down through the property here. Over time, that's changed. Nightingale Lane was improved, the access from that. So we don't have plans yet. So access could come off Cedar Cross Road, access could come off of Nightingale Lane. The property could be replatted a little bit differently. We do have a minimum requirement. They have to have at least 50 feet of street frontage and 5,000 square feet of lot area. Anything that's greater than a duplex. So a duplex doesn't require a site plan review by the development review team. It does require a review through the building department and the fire department and water for the access points. But if we have a threeplex or greater here, that goes through our development review team. We do take a look at how access points come out on the property. As discussed before, there's quite a bit of discussion about improvements to Cedar Cross Road in order to make a safe access for a turning lane onto Nightingale Lane, especially with the amount of traffic that's coming there off the sports complex, which, by the way, is located in the county. Just want to remind people about that, for the access points into it. So I am not aware of any easement, nor that I researched to see if there was an actual permanent easement about access through there. You just heard Ms. Murfeld and I kind of talked about that. That would be something that would be recorded in order to take access from Cedar Cross Road to get access in the back of Mrs. Moss's property. So
it's to be
determined.
determined with great options here. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Ms. Wethel.
While you're up there, I have just a question that I think dovetails on what you were speaking about. So if greater than 2 units, the development review team would have to review a site plan. And I'd like to know, is that the time in which we would review buffers?
So there would be no requirement for buffer from residential to residential property here.
Okay.
So there's no requirement. If we were to go through, like previously there was a planned unit development discussion about 3 rezonings ago on this property. That's where something that you have a little bit more control, that placing that requirement of a buffer yard between the 2 properties, because that has a specialized zone. But because it doesn't require a site plan, the requirement is if they meet the setback requirements, they're permitted by right to connect to water, sewer, and everything. Now, that being said, the property at 575, if you can see my cursor here, we do have requirements for setbacks from property lines. So the maximum setback is 50 feet from the roadway. So any structure that's probably going to get built on this property is going to have to require an additional review by the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which would require another public hearing, which we would notify all the adjoining property owners with that request, if that structure is built greater than 50 feet from the front property line. And due to the distance and the layout of the property, that's a possibility. However, I can't say that specifically because I have no plan to explain that to you. So the lay of the land and how it's laid out, it could be a requirement to go to the zoning board of adjustment until we actually get plans that shows how the building footprint and the layout will be. I won't be able to answer that question specifically, so.
Thank you. I just want to say that this week I actually met with a group of housing advocates that were concerned that I voted against this property as an R4. So people do understand a need for housing, and I know there's a variety of concerns that are all very unique to each person who is a stakeholder in this conversation. But know that there are people in our community that were also upset that we did not maximize the zoning requirement as we had discussed previously. And so we're trying to strike a balance. Please know that I'm doing my best to listen to all involved, and that I'm hearing from people who sometimes speak the opposite of maybe what someone else is saying. And I'm trying to listen to everyone. Know that as I do this, I'm listening to Wally and his team as well, which thank you, and thank you for, again, our Zoning Advisory Commission on all the work that they've done on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
Thank you. I appreciate the property owners being willing to reduce the zoning to R3 in response to concerns from the neighbors and this council, and also the commission. I know that change is always difficult, but I think it's helpful to know that any future developments would be looked at, anything large would be looked at by the development review team to look at such a wide range of areas to minimize potential impacts to not only the property, but also the neighborhood, to ensure the best possible outcomes. And I believe this change takes into consideration the feedback that we receive from both sides, and I think it's a good solution. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, whatever ultimately happens here, it still has to fit. And one of the experts that chimed in the last round of conversation said that 2 duplexes would probably be about the limit that the property would realistically hold. We'll see what proposals come forward, obviously, but I think we got it right this time. I think the Zoning Commission, Advisory Commission has looked at it twice, has listened to everybody. I think we've looked at it twice. I think we did the right thing by sending it back to them to give them another look at it. And I think that we're at a solution here that probably is going to serve everybody in the long run.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, and I'll just add that I do think that we've come to the point of compromise here. I think that sometimes when you get there, everybody's a little bit not happy yet, and I think that that's where we are. And it's, you know, I don't think we're going to find a perfect sweet spot on this one. I do appreciate that we went through some extra time and took some extra process to do this, though. I think it did help. We've gotten a lot of community feedback, and we do appreciate it. I think it's been helpful to take it to where we were, and I can't really see it past the computer, Mr. and Mrs. Murfeld, but you too. I think it's been helpful to have this. I hope that as we move forward, neighbors can continue to talk to each other. We can't legislate that part, but I hope that we can do that and continue to work together. And then as far as the process goes with development review, I trust that process in our city. I think we do a good job with it. Wally, I want to make sure I publicly thank you for giving us this idea to remand this back to the Zoning Advisory Commission at the last meeting. It was your idea, and I do appreciate that you suggested that, because it was very helpful to have this extra discussion. So I'm going to be voting for this tonight. I think we are where we're going to get on this one. All right, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel?
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 3 is request to rezone Radford Road.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones?
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones, second by Farber. Wally again, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. The request before you is to rezone from a plan unit development with a PI planned industrial designation to a planned unit development with PR planned residential designation. The property in question is located on Rafford Road. It's the area outlined in the black and white hash line. It does have access off of Rafford Road. It is located currently in the Dubuque Industrial Center Park. This is an aerial photo of the map. We do notify all property owners within 200 feet. As you can see, property owners in the industrial park were notified. Also, the Radford apartments located to the north and property located to the west of the subject site. The project site was located in the county, but when it was annexed in the city, it came in as part of a planned unit development in 1980. The current zoning is planned industrial. The site is currently about 7.5 acres. It is undeveloped. It's been fallow land for quite a few years. It has frontage along Rafford Road. It does have sloping topography that goes from the northwest corner down to the southeast corner of the site. We do have adjacent land uses. Like I mentioned, to the north, we already have a multifamily residential development. To the east, we have industrial. To the south, industrial. And currently across the road, the land use currently is agriculture. This is kind of the view of that image of that property. You can kind of see there's like a gravel road access, which you'll see, which will kind of correspond to that location on the site or the concept plan that's provided here. So this is the proposed concept plan. It composes of 4 18-plexes, 3 stories in height. The parking requirement for multifamily residential is 1.5 parking spaces. This site actually exceeds that requirement. They provide more parking than it's required. As part of the conceptual development plan, they will be taking access off of Rafford Road. Goes into this larger parking lot area, and then also there's a detention basin located to the east of the site. The area will be served by both city water and sanitary sewer. There are public services to the site. We talk about having to go through the development review team. This did go through the development review team, any planned unit development. We take that concept plan before them to make sure we're okay with setback requirements, locations, fire access, emergency access to the site, water, sewer, stormwater issues. So all those are kind of hashed out during that concept plan review before we go through the rezoning. If approved through the rezoning, then site plans would be submitted where we go in a little bit more detailed. I think one of the questions that gets brought up sometimes is sanitary sewer with this location. You've seen that with some information provided in the paper today. The site is currently located in the area of the Catfish Creek, where the city is working on making improvements to the sanitary sewer. We will be working with the property owner as they look at making the sanitary to keep them on schedule, or they're looking at doing for the sanitary sewer. There are options. We are working with other developers for the same situation, but there is some timing with regards to sanitary sewer. I know the applicant has indicated they're looking at building 1 building next year and a building in 27, with a majority of the 2 other buildings being built in 28 for that development. It does meet our comprehensive plan. It encourages a mix of housing affordable for all segments of the population, and encourage new multifamily residential development in proximity to jobs. And I think it's very important that we look at the workforce housing and the location of this multifamily residential development. We have need for workers in the proximity, especially our industrial park. We are making those pedestrian connections. There's sidewalk that will provide access down to the area. There's schools in the immediate area, shopping, other opportunities in order to provide a location for that workforce development. We did have a public hearing. There was no public input received. We did notify everyone within 200 feet of the property. So at the meeting, no one spoke in opposition, and we did not receive any letters of opposition with the request to the rezoning. So by a vote of 4-0, the commission recommends that the city council approve the rezoning, and a simple majority vote is needed for city council to approve the rezoning of the property. That's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Wally. We are in a public hearing to consider a request to rezone a property located at Radford Road from planned unit development with a PI planned industrial designation to planned unit development with a PR planned residential designation, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Do we have any input on this evening? Seeing none here. Anything virtually?
Nope.
Thank you, Adrian. All right, back to us then.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. Mr. Werdeman, could you tell me, with these planned residential development, is there a planned play area or some area that, I mean, we're going to have a variety, you mentioned a variety of renters and a variety of ages. And I'm looking at the map here, and they're surrounded, as you said, by industrial and other types of zoning. So are they going to have room for some play areas for kids on this?
Currently, the plan doesn't show an outdoor play area. I know the developer is here with us tonight, and they might be able to address that. The closest proximity for recreational spaces for this would be the Burkeville Recreation Facility, which is located down along our expansive bike hike trail network that goes through the industrial park. In addition to, we have Roosevelt Middle School, which is located to the north, and then also Carter Elementary School has a playground for that. Whether or not there's actual on-site facilities, if you're asking like a recreational or indoor weightlifting or something for like smaller children to have an opportunity to have outdoor play space, I'd have to have you speak specifically with the developer.
So
Currently at this time, there's nothing proposed, but that is something that you could ask about when we move forward through the rezoning of the property.
So we don't require any kind of outdoor area for kids?
Currently, the requirement in our Unified Development Code does not have a requirement for that outdoor play area. Some developers choose to include that as an incentive for marketing of their property, especially if they're looking at marketing to small families. They have those questions of like, where can they recreate, have outdoor space? So we do have some multifamily residential developments where they're providing like an outdoor dog park or a basketball court or a tot lot or a swimming pool or some other things. Currently, with the plan that's submitted, it's just being provided right now as for 18 plexes that's provided for us. So
I see, because those areas you mentioned are kind of far away for little kids to go, and you wouldn't want your child to say, yeah, go down to the pond, and play.
There is a large, so not all this land is being developed. There is quite an expanse. I'm trying to pull up another area here. So there is additional land that's located in the area here for future maybe opportunities, provide some recreational opportunities. So there will be a large field located behind the property. Now, whether or not there's actual playground equipment, and if you can see my cursor up here, there is a great sledding hill, by the way, if you want to up to the right side. But it could be an opportunity for a recreational space, and that's something we could talk about. So.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, if I could invite some expert help, and I'm not sure if they've planned it yet. I mean, they haven't, but it is a possibility.
You're asking to speak to the developer?
Yes.
To be clear, yeah. I'm not sure who I'm looking at here.
My name is Tony Nodman. I'm one of the developers. This is something I think that we really haven't discussed yet, but I think we would definitely be open to, providing something like that for, younger kids or just, more stuff for them to do.
Great, thank you. I mean, you were a kid once. Even I was a kid once. And so I really appreciated that outdoor space. So thank you for considering that. And it's more than just a feature to get more people there, if it is that. But it's just, I mean, I wouldn't want little kids going a lot of places that are dangerous to try and play. You know how it is. So again,
absolutely.
thank you very much to you and your team for that consideration. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sprang.
Thank you. Wally, I have a question for you. So I was looking at the picto imagery that was provided.
Okay.
Essentially what we're looking at here is based off the other drawing that was provided. It's going to mimic a lot of what 1688 Radford has, where you've got the four buildings, but they have a parking garages
Correct.
in the middle. So that's essentially what we're looking at. Would the new developer have to finish the sidewalk then?
Yes, that would be a requirement. A sidewalk will be required to be extended, and on the concept plan, it is kind of shown here. It's kind of hard to make out, but there is a black line, and that is a requirement when there is improved curb and gutter along the property. That is a requirement that they put the sidewalk in, and that will provide that connectivity to that area. Just kind of give you some background about the neighborhood a little bit. We had these apartments that were constructed, and there was no connectivity for the sidewalk. It was kind of sporadic. We did listen to the Parent-Teacher Association and the principal at Roosevelt Middle School, because they do have children that attend Roosevelt from the Radford apartments. We had those conversations, and sidewalk has been approved all the way up to Roosevelt Middle School, and this will just be that continuation, which will make that connection between the Radford apartments and then the Geesey property to the south. So
That was my only question. Thank you, Wally.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Farber?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the developers for creating this opportunity, because we do need mixed housing at all levels, and I think it just is a compliment to that area as well. And I think that people can actually live, work, and play in that area, work in that area with hopefully playgrounds and other schools for the kids that they do, the families that are there. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys for creating this, and I think it serves a great need here in the city. And thank you, Wally, for all your work as usual. Thank you.
Ms. Wethel?
I just wanted to share with everyone, this was a quasi-judicial rezoning, and so that's more of a specialized rezoning in which we have to avoid site visit plans or site visits on our own to those properties from council. So the questions and feedback that we get from Wally know that we can't go out and stalk this property the way that we do some because of its non-traditional specialized zoning rules. One question I do have for you, Wally, and you touched on it a little bit when you discussed the Roosevelt Middle School input and discussions on sidewalks, but do we have a bus stop that is close?
I'd have to check on specifically where the bus stop is, but that's something we evaluate all the time when we look at development, especially as we look at more density of the residential. I currently I'm not aware where the bus stop would be at this location.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Mr. Sprink looks like he kind of knows.
I think it's across from Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
Down on,
Yeah.
I think, I'm pretty sure there's one there.
There is a bus stop. The city does have a dual route that comes out here, would drop off down at the one area towards the bottom, but this is more up the hill. So I was thinking more, where is it at along Radford Road? So, oh, we got Ryan Nucky's right in the background here. So
Ryan, if you're going to come in, if you wouldn't mind coming up, please. Sorry. I know you're hiding in the corner, but we'll need you to come to the mic.
Glad you came early, Ryan. Thanks.
Ryan Nucky, Transportation Services. We do go down Radford Road. I'd have to review how far this is and if there's a safety concern with where it's at. But I know we do go down Radford Road, so this is something we can definitely evaluate. And if we have enough time to do it, we'll definitely add one in there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks. The only other statement I would make is that we have a daycare and jobs and housing all within proximity of one another. And to me, that's a goal of when we started this housing hope, if you will. It was that we can create different sorts of housing across our city in all regions. And so I'm really excited to vote for this tonight, and thank you very much for your investment in Dubuque.
Any others? All right. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, honestly. That what you just said, I think, is the big crux of this. I think this is a perfect fit for this particular piece of land. I think it's great that we've got folks that are willing to step up and develop it, and I do appreciate it very much. I think it fits very well in this neighborhood for all the reasons that have been pointed out. So I'm looking forward to voting for this too. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 4 is conducting a public hearing for the Jules, Iowa Department of Transportation Consolidated Funding Application.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolutions.
Second by Wethel.
I got a motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Director of Transportation Services Ryan Nucky is recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving the Jules, Iowa Department of Transportation Consolidated Funding Application as submitted. To receive the state operating and maintenance allocations for fiscal year 2026, the Jewel is required to submit a consolidated funding application. This annual application requires that, along with other documents, a certificate of cost allocation plan and an authorizing resolution be submitted. The Jewel, as the public transit agency operated by the City of Dubuque, receives a portion of its annual operating funds from the Iowa Department of Transportation Office of Public Transit and the Federal Transit Administration. The timely submittal of the consolidated funding application is critical to ensuring the release of the funds. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We're on a public hearing to consider City Council adopt the resolution approving the Jules IDOT consolidated funding application as submitted. Do we have any public input on this item? Seeing none here. Anyone virtually?
Nope.
Thank you. All right, back to us for any discussion. Seeing and hearing none. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 5 is fiscal year 2025 first budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Jones. Mike, please.
Thank you. Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending approval of the first fiscal year 2025 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 2025 budget for City Council action since the beginning of the fiscal year and includes items which City Council has expressed support for. Second, the amendment includes fiscal year 2024 budget carryovers to fiscal year 2025 of encumbrances totaling $40,731,920, capital projects totaling $130,820,883 that were not completed during the prior fiscal year, and associated revenues totaling $74,735,019. There are operating budget appropriation carryovers of $8,595,670 and operating receivables of $4,282,664. Also, total transfers between funds of $23,075,453 are reflected. The capital budget amendment totals a decrease of $4,753,720 with an increase in associated revenue of $2,103,910. The capital amendment includes increases for new grants, which includes parks branching out of Dubuque, airport new hangars, streets traffic control, water plant flood protection system, and the east-west corridor capacity. The capital amendment reduces Dubuque Industrial Center West projects in fiscal year 2025 to match available resources, which include development of Dubuque Industrial Center for a reduction of $395,000, South Heacock Road construction for a reduction of $4,647,776, and development of McFadden properties for a reduction of $1,320,000. The amendment also reduces the grants, $1,766,926 reduction, and bond proceeds, $2,274,963 reduction, associated with the canceled Dubuque Industrial Center West projects. The amendment also adds fuel system improvements at the Municipal Services Center for $381,806, reallocated from snow and ice control savings. The capital budget amendment items also include an increase of $252,983 to adjust the capital budget for the Community Development Block Grant, which includes homeowner rehab for $20,000 and capital projects to be determined for $232,983. The operating budget amendments total an increase of $660,196 with a decrease in associated revenue of $377,920. The operating amendment expense includes new grants of $123,070 for sustainability and $127,651 for AmeriCorps. Increase in police and fire employee expenses related to command staff salary increases to address pay compression issues for $392,394. A grant match of $350,000 is included for airport minimum revenue guarantee. Water and Resource Recovery Center revenues related to fats, oils, and grease were reduced by $507,565 to match actual fee adjustments in fiscal year 2025. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approve the first fiscal year 2025 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 2025 budget for City Council action since the beginning of the fiscal year and includes items on which the City Council has expressed support for. Do we have anyone here to comment on this evening? Seeing no one here, anyone virtually? Thank you, Adrian. All right, back to us then for any discussion. Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Ms. Larson, if you don't mind, would you mind commenting on the transfer between funds that we're making? Because what are the nature of these transfers? I mean, do we have specific funds for specific things, and then transfer general funds and specific funds, or how is those? I just need some more information for myself. Are these general funds that are used for lots of different purposes, and we just need to move funds from one to the other? If you could tell me what the reasons are for those.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson, the transfers that you are seeing as carryovers in the amendment were included as in the adopted budget from the previous fiscal years. So most of them relate to capital projects. So for example, when we try to explain this, when we code a project to our general ledger system, we code it to one fund in the general ledger, but the project may have multiple funds that fund it. So for example, a lot of engineering projects will come from multiple funds, and we'll have to program transfers in the budget to go into the fund that it's actually coded to come from those other funding sources. So that's a lot of the transfers that you're seeing. There will be other transfers as well in the adopted budget. For example, we will transfer, we have in enterprise funds, we have operating funds and their construction funds, and we'll transfer from operating to construction to cover their capital projects. We also have to do transfers from the funding sources that were set aside to make our debt service payments. So those are also transfers we budget for. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but those are mainly the transfers we budget are for capital projects.
I see, and there's flexibility built in just because you need flexibility.
The transfers that are budgeted are for the actual project budgets that were submitted through the budget process.
I see. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Any others? Okay. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next is public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have any public input this evening?
Good evening. My name is Joey Callahan, 7629 Commerce Park. I am representing Callahan Construction, or CCI 5, for the developers agreement for the 380 Cedar Cross development. I just wanted to say that we are very excited about the project, and I'm available to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Joey. for your comments. Any other input this evening? Okay, seeing none here. Anything virtually, Adrienne?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Okay, we can move on to action items.
Action item number 1 is resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and CCI 5 LLC, providing for the use of Urban Revitalization District tax abatement pursuant to the development agreement.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and approve and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
You got a motion by Jones and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. I'll just tell Joey and the developers, we're equally excited about your project, so thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council to adopt the attached resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and CCI 5 LLC, providing for the use of Urban Revitalization District tax abatement at the project, which is generally at 380 Cedar Cross Road. In September 2022, following a housing study which indicated the need for over 1,100 housing units before the year 2030, the Dubuque City Council approved the expansion of incentives to be offered to developers of housing units. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's Vintage 2024 population estimates, for the first time in history, the population of Dubuque County is approaching 100,000. The City of Dubuque, home to nearly 60% of Dubuque County's total population, and the location where most residents most residents within 50 miles work, shop, and recreate, is a major driver and beneficiary of this population milestone. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, only 30 of the 99 counties in the state of Iowa grew in population from 2010 to 2020, and only 8 of those counties grew by more than 5,000 people. Of those 8 counties that grew by more than 5,000 people, only Dubuque County, which of course is home to the City of Dubuque, and Scott County, which is home to the City of Davenport, were outside the Polk County, or Des Moines, Story County, or Ames, and Johnson County, City of Iowa City, and Lynn County, City of Cedar Rapids corridors. So in other words, those 2 corridors, Des Moines to Ames and Iowa City to Cedar Rapids, was responsible for all but 2 of those counties that grew more than 5,000 people. The other 2 counties was Scott County and Dubuque County. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's Vintage 2024 population estimate, so that last reference was 2010 to 2020, so this is from 2000 up to 2024, only 7 counties in the state of Iowa showed a population increase of more than 900 people from 2020 to 2024, and only Dubuque County, at a plus 934 people, was outside the Polk County, Story County, and Johnson County, Lynn County corridors. Since July 1st, 2022, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation reports there has been over $805 million in new construction in Dubuque County, with businesses creating approximately 1,000 jobs. Dubuque County's continued economic and population growth is a welcome contrast to most of the rest of the state of Iowa, and to the 1980s, when Dubuque County lost nearly 10% of its population and unemployment soared, hitting 23% in 1983. In fact, Dubuque County's population declined from 1976 to 1990 before it began to steadily increasing and finally recovered to its 1976 level in 2013. With more projects in the works, like the over $100 million Chaplain-Schmidt Island Development Plan, the downtown location of the University of Dubuque's new John and Alice Butler College of Osteopathic Medicine, an expansion of the University of Dubuque Airline Pilot Program, the over $80 million Field of Dreams project, a new Dubuque Museum of Art, development of Wanderwood's Children's Garden, a planned new Dubuque Community Y, numerous commercial, hotel, and housing projects under construction, investments in city infrastructure and streets, enhanced air service, and the upcoming results of the Envision 2030 process identifying 10 big things to be accomplished by 2030, more housing is going to be needed. The key elements of the development agreement include the following. Developer will make a capital investment of approximately $23.4 million to develop the property. The developer must create 180 residential units. Developer must construct traffic improvements on Cedar Cross Road. Developer must construct public sanitary and sewer improvements on the property as defined in the agreement. Developer will receive 10 years of tax abatement on the increased value above the current assessed value of the property. The city will prepare the Cedar Cross Road Urban Revitalization Area Plan for City Council review at a public hearing following the execution of the development agreement. The city is to develop, construct, and maintain at city's expense a temporary sanitary sewer solution to allow tenants to occupy the multi-residential buildings upon issuance of certificate of occupancy. The temporary solution shall continue until the sanitary sewer design and construction obligations of developer are allowed by permit from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. The city will collect the standard sanitary connection fees from any property that connects to the sewer being constructed by the developer and disperse the fees to the developer. The city will extend an appropriately sized drain tile along the east side of Cedar Cross Road from the existing storm sewer system at the intersection of Crescent Ridge and Cedar Cross Road so that the developer can connect the newly constructed drain tile to the city's storm sewer system. The development agreement requires the developer to accept applications from prospective tenants with housing choice vouchers that are otherwise qualified prospective tenants. I concur with the recommendation and respect for the request, Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Well, I'll just kick us off here and then open it up for any questions. But I just first want to say I echo the excitement and a huge thank you to Joey and Joel and everybody who's been involved in this project. Sometimes you run into some challenges when you're developing things, and sometimes you run into really big ones. And I just want to make sure that I say thank you for staying at the table, having patience, continuing to have the determination to make this project go forward. I hope that we've echoed that too, because we really do want to see this project move forward. So I'm glad that we're able to come to some sort of a conclusion here, particularly with the sanitary sewer challenges that we ran into. The rest of it is pretty much straight development kind of stuff, things that we put in development agreements most of the time. But this one was a unique one, and it took, I think, a unique temperament to be able to handle it in the way that everybody did. So thank you for being there to do that. We really do want to see this move forward. It's a great project and a great spot. And over the years, this will be something that we'll be able to look back on and say it's not a problem anymore. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but we're going to continue to work on that. I don't think I have any questions. I think I'm very, again, happy to see this project moving forward and at this pace too. I mean, this is something that I hope that we're able to keep on pushing forward with. So any other questions or discussion? Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you very much. So I was hoping Mr. Solis would come up and talk about some of the engineering aspects of the solution. I guess I was hoping we could hear some more about the solution, maybe the funding estimates, the source of funds. Because, of course, I mean, we're very supportive of this project. When you say at city's expense, of course, we're saying at citizens' expense. And they're going to be, once this is taken care of, there will be, funds coming in, tax funds from this. But for this temporary solution, could you tell us more about it? Thank you.
Gus Sahoy, city engineer. So we're just looking at two oversized manholes that'll be in line. And there'll be a valve associated with it. So when the sanitary sewer is at capacity, when it's raining very hard, like a 2-year storm, 3 or 4 inches or so, we'll have a manhole cover that'll indicate to us that we need to close the valve. We'll close the valve and we'll store the sewage in these 2 oversized manholes. And we'll release it after the rainfall occurrence. And in the case that we can't release it, we have a pumper that will be available to pump it down and take it to the treatment plant. So it's a pretty simple solution. We're going through the DNR process to make sure they approve it, so we think they will. So we've, Friday I was with the engineer and we got a few things taken care of in the application, so we'll submit it to them and hopefully we get approval and we'll move forward with that solution.
Great, so it's like a holding area, a temporary holding area?
Temporary holding area when it
To get
does
the
rain 2 or 3 inches,
stormwater.
4 inches or so, and the sewer is at capacity.
And do you have a funding estimate for this? How much this is?
You know, I just threw a guess at it. You know, it's not like, you know, for
Sorry,
me
I
to
didn't
say-
read
say-
that. What
I
was
just-
it?
My guess was 30,000. It might be more.
Okay, so that's for the equipment. And the source of funds, is that from the enterprise fund that we're using?
Yeah,
that?
I'm thinking right now I'd have to defer that to the city manager.
Okay.
So the answer to that question is yes, but the other thing is, even though the improvement is at the city's cost, the developer knows that they have to pay sewer charges just like anybody else. So it's just as if the sewage was just going right to the plant. They'll still pay their regular sewer charges, so there still will be a revenue source.
Okay, so that explains it to me a little better. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions or discussion here. Motion on the table is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is reject bids 2025 repair and maintenance of the Iowa Street parking garage.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Director of Transportation Services Ryan Nucky and Project Manager Jim Bosley recommending City Council reject the single bid proposal received for the 2025 repair and maintenance of the Iowa Street parking garage due to a lack of competitive bids and insufficient funding to proceed with the construction improvements as proposed. It also recommended that staff review the scope of the project, further evaluate the estimate of probable costs based on current construction cost, market conditions, identify potential value engineering components so that the improvements can be modified or adjusted to meet the current available funding, evaluate the construction schedule and potentially allow contractors more time to complete the ramp repair work, and prepare to rebid the project. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. Ms. Roussel.
I had a question. I was wondering if this delay adds any safety concerns?
I'm Jim Bosley, Engineering Project Manager on the project. The safety concerns are addressed. The north half of the parking structure, the third level, is closed. There hasn't been any other issues in any other places within the ramp that would cause us any concern at this point. There is some sense of urgency. We want to get some new parks equipment, which is the gates and things like that, the new electronic stuff in before the end of this year, before it gets cold. But other than that, no, there is monitoring that goes on a monthly basis structurally to evaluate it, so we're well aware if there's any other issues that may arise in the interim.
Thanks. I appreciate that clarification.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sprank.
Question for you again, for you, Jim. Do you think this will get broken out into phases then now? You kind of break the thing into different, go out to rebid, but do like a phase 1 and then a phase 2 maybe?
We're going to have a meeting with the consultant, the engineer, Desmond, this week. And what we're hoping to do is take, I don't know if we're wanting to break up the project. But what we would like to do is probably look at what we really feel is a priority, it's critical, make that as the base bid, and then have the alternates that maybe increase the costs and expanded the time frame to get it done. It's a very condensed schedule to get it done, and the contractors weren't comfortable with that. Obviously, that's why you saw one bid and a large bid on it. So the hope is that we bid it as one package and not have to do it in phases.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick?
Yes, thank you. And that partially answered my question, but I was hoping Mr. Nucky would talk about a strategy to get more bids. Obviously, that was a critical thing. People are busy around Dubuque constructing things, which is a good thing. But once we have this, you've outlined some things that might make a real difference to construction folks. But Mr. Nucky, if you wouldn't mind, he mentioned that there were meetings. You were going to have a meeting about this specifically, but do you have any, off the top of your head, strategies to get some more bids?
Like Ryan Nucky, Director of Transportation Services. Like Jim was mentioning, we're going to be redoing the scope of this work. When we did our pre-bid meeting, we actually had a very good turnout with contractors. 3 or 4 generals were on site that day. So as we talked, and we're going to be consulting with Desmond on this, we're going to be reducing the scope down to hopefully that'll open it up to more contractors bidding on this project.
Did the contractors give you some feedback about the scope is too much, or?
We didn't receive a lot of feedback on that, but with this project, like Jim mentioned earlier, we had a lot of alternates put in there that we're going to potentially remove out of the bid package, and we're going to condense it down to more of the structural side of it to see if that'll reduce the overall construction time, and then we'll have the additional projects as alternates in the bid package.
So you remain optimistic we're going to get some action?
Oh, very much so.
Okay,
very
great.
much so.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Mayor.
Any others? Well, these things do happen. It's unfortunate to see it. We just had a long conversation about the need for this, but it does happen, and we've been through this process before, and I'm highly confident that we will find a better way forward that'll make it something that we can see back before us before too long. So thank you very much for your time on this tonight. Okay, motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprague.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is resolutions of support for workforce housing tax credit applications for multiple housing developments. And I will just remind everyone for this one that the 5th resolution is removed, so this item is only for 4 resolutions.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Move to receive and file the documents and adopt the remaining 4 resolutions.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council approval of the attached resolution supporting the aforementioned applications for Iowa workforce housing tax credits for housing development in Dubuque. A community input form also accompanies each resolution and requires signature. When developers submit an application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority for workforce housing tax credits, they are required to attach both a resolution of support from the municipality and, new for this year, a community input form. This allows the municipality to provide insight into the impact each project will have on the city's housing goals. The following projects have approached city staff requesting support to apply. Most of these projects are located in Dubuque's downtown area, with the one on the west end is the one that's not being considered tonight and will be on a future agenda. In September 2022, following a housing study which indicated the need for over 1,100 housing units before the year 2030, the Dubuque City Council approved the expansion of incentives to be offered to developers of housing units. This includes supporting applications for state of Iowa incentive programs in order to facilitate the development of multifamily housing. The projects being considered tonight for letters of support are Millworks Flat LLC at 1065 Jackson Street. The City of Dubuque and Millworks Flat entered into a development agreement on June 17, 2024 for the creation of 62 rental residential units with an investment of approximately $17,500,000 for the construction of the units. Current modeling is closer to 76 units with an investment of approximately $25,500,000. Next project, Gronin Development, 5th and Main Street. City of Dubuque and Gronin Development entered into a development agreement on March 17, 2025 for the creation of at least 80 rental residential units and 8,000 square feet of first floor commercial space with an investment of approximately $24 million. Current modeling is closer to 102 residential units with a total investment of approximately $28 million. Wilson House, next project, Wilson House Apartment LLC, 1243 Locust Street. City of Dubuque and Wilson House Apartments entered into a development agreement on May 20th, 2024 for the creation of 5 new residential units with an investment of approximately $1,500,000. The project intends to use historic tax credits. And the final project to be considered for tonight for letter of support is 1301 Central. The City of Dubuque and 1300 Central LLC are negotiating a development agreement for the creation of 30 new residential units and approximately 9,000 square feet of commercial space with an investment of approximately $8 million. The project intends to use historic tax credits. City staff anticipate bringing the development agreement to City Council for review and approval in June 2025. Given the already demonstrated dearth of housing units in Dubuque, and with the pending need to house an additional 700 students, faculty, and staff of the proposed John and Alice Butler College of Osteopathic Medicine, scheduled to open in downtown Dubuque in 2028, it is imperative to provide support for the construction of additional housing options. The projects meet one or more of these City Council goals: creation of additional housing located in Dubuque's downtown, and the rehabilitation of an existing structure. From 2010 to 2020, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, of the 99 counties in the state of Iowa, only 30 grew in population, and only 8 of those grew by more than 5,000 people. Of those 8 counties that grew by more than 5,000 people, only Dubuque County, home of the City of Dubuque, and Scott County, home of the City of Davenport, were outside the Polk County, home to the City of Des Moines, Story County, home to the City of Ames, and Johnson County, home to the City of Iowa City, and Lynn County, home to the City of Cedar Rapids, corridors. From 2020 to 2024, according to the U.S. Census Bureau Vintage 2024 population estimates, only 7 counties in the state of Iowa showed a population increase of more than 900 people, and only Dubuque County, with an increase of 934 in that period, was outside the Polk County, Story County, and Johnson County, Lynn County corridors. This means that according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Dubuque County population grew by almost 6,000 people from 2010 to 2024, approaching 100,000 population. Since July 1st, 2022, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation reports there has been over $805 million in new construction in Dubuque County, creating over 1,000 jobs. The addition of the Iowa Workforce Housing Tax Credit to the capital stack improves the viability of these projects, increasing the developer's ability to adequately address the shortage of housing in the community. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Yet another great example of all the housing action that we're seeing here in Dubuque. It really is exciting, and happy to be voting for this tonight. Any other discussion? All right. So the motion on the table is to receive and file and adopt the remaining 4 resolutions. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is amendment to City Code Solicitor and Transient Merchant Licenses.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
A motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, please.
Yes, thank you. An amendment is proposed to the city code that updates how we regulate temporary sales activity within the city. Currently, the code groups both door-to-door sales and sales at temporary locations under a single solicitor's license. To provide greater clarity, the proposed changes would divide this into 2 separate license types. First, for solicitor sales, which would remain for individuals or businesses engaging in door-to-door sales, and then a new license type known as transient merchant license, which is for sales conducted at temporary locations such as parking lots or other non-permanent venues. This change will help residents, vendors, and staff better understand the type of activity being licensed. It also simplifies the review and processing procedures for city staff and allows for a clearer workflow within our online licensing software. Several Iowa cities of similar size offer 2 separate licenses, and the term transient merchant is defined in the Iowa Code. By offering two distinct licenses, we ensure consistency for vendors operating statewide and align our language with state code. In addition to establishing a new section for transient merchants, we're amending the current language to include the following updates: clarifying that a background check is conducted for each applicant for a solicitor license and the owner of a transient merchant business, specifying that if there are pending criminal charges that could result in license denial upon conviction, the city clerk's office has the authority to place the application on hold for up to 14 days to determine if there is if the charge is resolved within that time period. Removing application language to provide city staff with greater flexibility in modifying the application as needed. Expanding the grounds for denial to include felony convictions within the past 7 years, any crime involving injury or property damage to another person, or if the applicant is listed on the National Sex Offender Registry. Indicating that guilty pleas, no contest pleas, or plea agreements resulting in a conviction to a lesser charge may be treated as equivalent to a conviction when evaluating eligibility for a license, and clarifying our current section related to music. The police department, who is responsible for conducting background checks, provided input on the criteria for denial. All city staff involved in reviewing solicitor licenses have been informed of the proposed ordinance amendment and had an opportunity to provide feedback. So I recommend approval of the ordinance amending the city code to establish separate licenses for solicitors and transient merchants, revise background check and application procedures, and update the criteria for license denial. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Do we have any questions or discussion? Mr. Resnick.
I do. So this time of year, of course, when it gets warmer, we citizens get more door-to-door solicitors. And do we have solicitors who go through this process, or are solicitors door-to-door, except for, kids selling chocolate for baseball and that type of thing? But when we have adults at the door selling a service or a product, are they supposed to have some kind of a badge or some other kind of identification that says City of Dubuque knows about this and it's okay, or they don't need those kind of things? Or could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so code does require that they do have a license issued by our office. Any individual has the right to request to view that license. So basically, if you do have someone coming to your door, conducting door-to-door sales, you do have the right to ask them if they are licensed through the City of Dubuque, ask for a copy of that license. Currently, we do list on our website under our business licenses section the businesses who are licensed through our office. Figured that was helpful for both residents as well as city staff who also help us in the review process to consistently know what businesses are licensed. And we do often run into situations of businesses operating without that solicitor's license. So we often rely on the public's help with communicating those requirements to us. We are going to have an article in the next issue of the City News newsletter. As you said, Councilmember Resnick, recognizing that summer is the time when they're most active, we figured that's a great time to remind residents of the different requirements that solicitors have, but we do often rely on the public to help us with communicate those requirements. We'll often get calls to our office from individuals unsure about those requirements, and so the advice we always give to residents is you always have the right to ask for that information. If you're ever unsure or if you feel uncomfortable with an interaction that you've had, it's best that you get as much information from that individual as possible, specifically that person's name, the company that they're working for, and contact information would be helpful for us so we can use that information to reach out to them.
Thhank you very much. I know some citizens feel that's a confrontation they don't want to have. So I was just wondering if there was a way that they could indicate just, they're wearing a City of Dubuque badge, approved. I know that I can talk to these people about their products, and I know, we do some kind of vetting, correct, about all these type of things that you had described. So, I remember the situation myself, and I asked a person, well, do you have some indication that you have the right to come door to door to solicit? And they did not. But they said, well, but my manager does he's just down the block, those kind of things. And then they would call you. But again, I had to call them on it, which makes some people feel uncomfortable because it seems like we're challenging them and it might lead to an uncomfortable place. So Do any communities that you know of have some kind of indicator, outside indicator that they need to wear going door to door, that they have been approved by the city of Dubuque to do this?
I'm not aware of specific requirements that other communities use in terms of any visual display. Right now, our code just indicates, as written, that they are required to have a certificate, but there's nothing in the language that mentions they have to display that.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for your indulgence. It's not exactly what we're voting on tonight, but I just thought I'd bring up the question about this. I do intend to support this. And as long as the subject was brought up, I would bring up these other issues. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Spring.
Trying to, so would this, the transient merchant license, would this affect like Dubuque Fest, where there's a bunch of vendors selling in the park, or how would or is this more like, the thing when I think of is temporary locations such as parking lots and non-permanent venues. There's a company called Snap-on. This guy drives trucks. He sells tools, like just randomly out of that. Is that an example of what you're more looking for a transient merchant license?
Yes, situations like Dubuque Fest, and I would also say, so I'll first speak to Dubuque Fest. That more in nature is classified as a special event. Okay. So by being permitted through that process, that meets our requirements for those individuals to conduct those types of sales. This is more for, as you mentioned, that example you mentioned in terms of those temporary locations sporadically throughout the city. Mainly think of your fireworks sales that happen. That's mainly the vendors that would qualify for transient merchant. And it does mention, I thought it was worth clarifying as well, that farmers market is not required to be licensed through this process. They are also through a farmers market special event type of permit.
Thank you. That's my question.
Ms. Farber?
Just for qualification, when we have food trucks, and so we are permitted through the organization that asks for that permit. So it's not that we have to have a permit per se every time, or a license every time that we attend an event on behalf of another group. So whether it's Food Truck Fridays or the Millwork or Farmers Market, that's taken care of by the organization that takes care of that event. Just to clarify that, because there's pop-ups, there's too, and all kinds of tents and trailers and things like that people offer food and other kinds of things. So thank you. And thank you for all that you guys do for that.
All right, any others? Very helpful discussion, so thank you very much, Adrian. Motion here is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Jones.
Move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is fiscal year 2026 dollars and cents brochure.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and review the brochure.
Second by Spring.
Got a motion by Wethel and second by Sprank. Mike, anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, this is the dollars and cents brochure that we put out every single year, the City of Dubuque puts out after we complete our budgeting process. I, for one, am very thankful that we live in a community that provides something like this. I think it's very well done every single year. It puts extremely transparent, really clear what the budget has what shook out at the end of the budget there and where things stand. And I always appreciate having this document to be able to share with people whenever they have questions. And if they want to look deeper, they have opportunities to go there too, and plenty of links to be able to dig a little deeper if you want. Okay. No other comments here. Motion there was to receive and file. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel. Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel. Farber.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
All right. Well, did we fit anything in around the DC fly-in last week? Because I'm sure we'll have some things to talk about there. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
The day we came back, I was able to finally, I'm wearing the button here, or about Bike Week. There were lots of cold events that day, that week, and my event was cold as well. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of emphasis on safety. And of course, that's what our city council is concerned about, the safety of bicyclists on the road. So I appreciate these groups coming together and supporting that and supporting more bicyclists and more ways to get around the city. So congratulations to the folks who got this all together and rode the rides and encouraged people to learn how to be safe on the roads. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Ms.
Ms.
Mayor.
Farber.
So I wanted to give a shout out to Chris Coleman on her retirement, which was held on May 9th. But I also want to give a shout out to the press tour that we had with the TH on May 6th, where Chris was kind enough and patient enough to join us as we walk through rack by rack, item by item at the data center, how the innovative and efficiencies that we're going to be having very soon when we're operational at the Chavanel new data center. So thank you very much for the article and very much the shout out to Chris Coleman for all that she has done for us to get this data center up and running, and hopefully it'll be up and running very soon. So thank you for that. And then this week I had my ITC meeting for the League of Cities, and we focused on regulatory processes with the FCC. For this group, and well attended as well. And then next month, which will be the end of June, I will be going to Amazon's headquarters to speak on behalf of Dubuque and all of our innovative technologies, AI applications, and our new data center as well. So I'm very much looking forward representing us again. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Ms. Roussel.
Thank you. I was pleased to attend the HEART program graduation at Four Mounds along with council members Katie Wethel and David Resnick. And it was clear that this program has so many outcomes for the students, not to mention the wonderful remodeled homes that they create for families in Dubuque. And I could see that these students not only receive training in the construction skills that will benefit them throughout their career, but also personal support from their instructors that provides confidence building and guidance. And it was just a joy to see these young people graduating and to think about where they're going from here.
Thanks, Ms. Roussel. Mr. Jones.
Had an outstanding employee recognition event on Thursday, the 8th, and appreciate the staff that put it together, appreciate all of our city employees that attended it, and very proud of them all. We had our Dubuque Metropolitan Area Transportation Study Committee meeting later that day. Friday morning, the 9th, we had Travel Dubuque Hospitality Breakfast, which was very well attended and a pretty exciting speaker, firing us up to be good at what we're doing and upbeat about the message. And of course, the message is that this is a great place to live and it's a great place to visit. So please do both. Chris Coleman's retirement followed that event. Monday through Thursday last week, we're in DC, and I'll let you do the talking about it, but I want to commend the mayor for herding the cats and keeping us on task, along with Terry Goodman. It's a different world in Washington, but it's the people that are in power now are the people that we need to be dancing with to be successful here. So we had some good conversations, and I'll let you finish that story. Friday the 16th, the Solid Waste Agency Board met to talk about the conditions in this rezoning. And after this council meeting tonight, I'm changing clothes and going down and playing drums with the East Dubuque Drum Corps to welcome our honor flight back about 10 o'clock and tonight and tomorrow night. So if you feel like doing something after we're done here, that'd be worth doing.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Wethel.
Well, I want to just circle back to the Four Mounds HEART Program Partnership Awards. As Council Member Roussel had commented, it was really a heartwarming experience, and I had commented to her after the event how many times the word love was describing the students and the connections that they made with their faculty and their community. I told my husband it's maybe one of the most beautiful, positive events I've been to since I joined council. It was just really lovely, and I commend them for all their work. And I had the privilege of going to 821 Garfield and seeing their new house and having all the guys then show me what they've done
and the details of the trim, and it is a beautiful space. I'm so excited for whoever gets to live there. I had the privilege of meeting with the NAACP Housing Committee by invitation. That was great. Appreciated their feedback. And then on May 15th, I attended the Peace Officers Ceremony. And Mr. Van Milligan, I want to recognize you as you shared your heartfelt gratitude to our first responders and how they treated you, but also how they treat our community. And it was a very moving experience to be there, but I salute you in sharing your story.
Mr. Sprague. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The DC fly-in event was very successful. Meeting with our federal partners, it's always interesting to hear what they have going on as well as what we have going on. So it was a nice time. Also got to fly back into our airport, which was seamless connection, no issues. None of my luggage got lost, so I was very happy with that. So that's all. Thanks.
It's a good plug. Thank you. Yeah, a few things. I realized I did fit a few things in around the DC plan. I'm not even sure how it happened, but I also got to enjoy Bike Week a little bit. There was a great event in the amphitheater at the B Branch to close out Bike Week on Friday. They beat the weather. It was going to rain, and so they beat that. But it was a really nice time to be able to sit there and talk to folks that I think did a great job organizing Bike Week this week, and I encouraged them to keep doing that every year. The Travel Dubuque Hospitality Breakfast was also there. I really enjoyed that opportunity. A couple hundred people, I think, were able to attend, so that was great. City employee recognition, I love doing that every single year. I appreciate so much that we do that. So Mike, I commend you for that. And Mike, it was fun to share a stage with you and have, I think, a very open conversation about just working in the city of Dubuque and the challenges we go through, the successes we're starting to see. It was a great opportunity to, I think, have a conversation and listen and have everybody get a chance to hear from us, to have just talking like that together. So thanks for doing that.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to thank you, Mayor, for being willing to do that. Our format in the past is to have a keynote speaker, and they chose this year instead to interview you and I on stage, and it was kind of you to be willing to do it, and we appreciate that. And every single elected official was in attendance, and of course, part of the appreciation is the awards ceremony, and all the council members participated in providing the awards, the employees. It was we had almost 500 people, including retirees, who came to the event. And of course, it's planned by an internal committee led by Jenny Mesrich, formerly at the city manager's office, now at the airport, and her team. And I thought they did a great job. So thank you for attending.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we were all able to be there. It doesn't happen every single year, so it was nice that we were all able to be there. I'm going to move my way up the government ladder. So I'll start with the state. While we were in Washington, D.C., the Iowa State Legislature adjourned for the year. And there were a couple of big things that were talked about all year that did not happen that would affect cities very directly, which would be property tax reform and reforming the way tax increment finance works in the state of Iowa. So what I really want to say to this is I want to give a heartfelt thank you to the representatives and senators who invited cities to the table to have these discussions all session long. It really was a very collaborative discussion. And in the end, legislation did not come together to be able to get to the form of passing. And what that really means is that the work begins now, I think. Or I should say, not begins. The work continues now and from here until January to be able to have some more collaborative discussions with our representatives and senators from across the state, especially those who are put in the leadership positions to really deal with these particular issues. It's incredibly important that cities are there to talk to them. And that means that we are representing our residents and the needs that our residents have when it comes to things like what are we going to invest in with property tax dollars? What are we going to do with tax increment finance, and how are we going to use that? Those examples are incredibly important. So looking forward to those discussions. It's going to be something that will be really active with the Iowa League of Cities and beyond. So I encourage all of us to stay very active in that and in that role. When it comes to Washington, D.C., it is absolutely a different place, but in some ways, there were some real similarities in the trips that we've had previously in doing this. One was we showed up in force. We had about 20 people that were able to make it all together, and that was fantastic. A lot of us here, I know some of us had other obligations, and that always does happen, but along with that, we had representatives from ECIA, from multiple different chamber organizations, chamber-based organizations, business leaders in the community. It is great to be able to be in a city where business and government can show up together and have really collaborative, very active discussions and really speak with a fairly unified voice, I would say, to our representatives there in Washington. Specifically, we talked a lot about our grant for the 14th Street overpass and moving that to the point of moving past the planning portion and getting the contract signed to be able to actually start to build that. That is one of those things that is still, we're waiting for that moment, but we did have some very good discussions with I think everybody involved, all the way from the White House down to the Department of Transportation representatives, and then also our members of Congress and the staff that were there. We actually had multiple meetings with the members of Congress, and well, one meeting with each member of Congress that represents us, but then their staff we actually met with a couple different times. So I appreciate that access and being able to have some good discussions. On the side, we also talked to National League of Cities. We stopped by their offices and had some discussion with them, and then also talked to some consultants that we work with in Washington that help us get the grants. It was a very, very productive meeting for 2 days. I mean, we packed a lot in for 2 days, so I always appreciate the fact that we can go there. Thank you to everyone who was able to make it this year, previous years. I think it matters. It really does matter, and especially when we have a transition like we're seeing with some, there's always a transition when presidents change, but this one is definitely, there's a lot more going on, and I think it takes us being very active in the conversation to make sure that we're getting what the city of Dubuque really needs and the residents of Dubuque need. So with that, we have a closed session again this evening, so I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move that the City Council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss pending litigation and purchase or sale of real estate.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. For the record, the attorney the City Council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is Senior Counsel Barry Lindahl. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Resnick. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.